Fala galera, beleza? Quem tá falando com vocês aqui é o Portu e trazendo pra vocês aqui um vídeo explicando pra vocês, como vocês sabem, né? Esse vídeo tá sendo gravado numa sexta-feira e eu tô gravando pra vocês, tô bem atrasado no caso. Legendado PTBR, a Valve revela por que o episódio 3 de Half-Life 2 nunca saiu, né? Pessoas querem saber por que nunca aconteceu isso e eu estou aqui. Lembrando que não estou jogando Half-Life 2, mas vou jogar sim, porque estou jogando toda a saga. Estou fazendo uma série no canal de Half-Life que o pessoal gosta pra caramba desse jogo, então eu estou trazendo pro canal e jogando com vocês pra me divertindo e jogando por nostalgia desse jogo, tá? Tanto Half-Life 1, depois eu tô jogando o Blue Shift, né? Pra zerar com vocês em live, depois eu vou jogar Half-Life 2, né? Enfim, eu vou jogar aqui, né? Lógico que é um spoiler, não é um mini spoiler, mas assim, eu acho que não é um tanto spoiler assim pra saber, né? O pessoal quer saber por que não saiu o episódio 3 de Half-Life 2, ou conhecido como o meme Half-Life 3. Bem, esse vídeo vai ser curto, né? Vai ser um vídeo muito longo, vamos ver aqui agora. Mas deixa lá, se inscreve nesse canal aqui. Deixa o like se vocês gostaram desse vídeo aqui. Eu reagindo com vocês aqui, que os caras da Valve falaram. Vambora, deixa o like e vambora. Tô longe demais. 8 minutinhos, é rapidinho. Bem, esse foi a comemoração de 20 anos, tá? De Half-Life. Então por isso que eles resolveram esse maior mistério da humanidade que os fãs queriam muito saber.
Making a sideways trade-off. You know, I think that's maybe the way I felt about it.
Even into episode 3, I still don't know what that would have been if we'd built it, because it hadn't been built. That was the feeling of excitement of something I can't even imagine is going to happen with as a team. I was not like imposing like a top-down, this is what we must do to tell our...
Galera, só um cortinho, rapidinho.
Like, oh,
vamos lá.
we have new features? Like, how do we use, what kind of story can we do with these now?
Well, I worked on episode 3, and I was working on this gun called the ice gun that basically let you create amorphous shapes out of ice. So you could like raise a little ice wall in front of yourself. It would be attached to the floor, and then the soldiers could shoot holes in it, and it would shatter and break like kind of like glass, I guess. So that was the primary mode of you could build ledges for yourself to get down, you know, cliff faces. It had another mode that was like a kind of like a Silver Surfer mode where you would extrude the ice in front of yourself and then run along it and use it to cross gaps, go over chasms and things like that. What else do we have? It was set in the Arctic because it was around centered around Borealis.
I remember the little blobby, squishy.
Oh yeah, Brian was working on the blobs. So we had the ISO surfaces that we ended up using in Portal for the paint. So we had that as an enemy. It was a blob enemy, and it could change its shape, and you could choreograph its shapes with some content tools. And then it could also split into little hoppy blobs that could, they were almost like little head crabby things, but they were, you know, they were little splats that would hop around. And we were doing all kinds of stuff with that. It could pass through grates.
You know, you could get more gameplay out of something where you had maybe a couple of creatures with simpler behaviors.
Oh yeah.
And then you would spend time like combining them with other game mechanics.
The story was never the boss of anything. It was always the, you know, we worked on a peer-to-peer thing. We were all gonna, what can we do? What do you think would be cool?
It was still a collection of like playable levels in no particular order, and a collection of story beats and story concepts. And we were still like, probably another 6 months we would have had a critical mass of like mechanics, and then start putting them in a timeline. I think probably a year and a half easily, you know, depending on how ambitious we got. Could have been, you know, 2.5 more years. Yeah.
Probably it's hard to be a lot less than 2 years.
Yeah, I think we were 6 months in on it when we moved to Left 4 Dead. I don't know, we were moving at a pretty brisk pace too.
I thought that we needed to go much bigger on episode 3 or do something else, because I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, but element fatigue. I think we had really explored a lot of what made sense in the Half-Life universe and setting.
Arcane was building the Ravenholm game, and even they were having trouble doing cool new stuff with this tool set. And like, if those guys can't figure out a bunch of cool stuff to do with this, I think we're running out of fuel.
Episode 3 is coming along. It's like, well, what's the new big thing here? It's got to be bigger than all the stuff we just did. You know, even episode 2, and it's like, oh my god, you know, it just becomes.
Are we allowed to cry in this documentary? That's what I want to know.
Left 4 Dead needed kind of an all-hands-on sort of an effort to ship, and so we put down Ep3 to go help Left 4 Dead, and it was a really tight shipping schedule, and it required a lot of work from everybody to get out the door, and it was worth it. I mean, it was,
Left 4 Dead came out.
Left 4 Dead came out great, but it took long enough, and this is the tragic and almost comical thing about it, was it took long enough that then by the time we considered going back to episode 3, the argument was made like, well, we missed it, it's too late now. You know, and we really need to make a new engine, and you know, to continue the Half-Life series and all that. And now that just seems in hindsight so wrong.
Yeah.
You know, we could have definitely gone back and spent 2 years to make episode 3.
And you can't get lazy and say, oh, we're moving the story forward. That's copping out of your obligation to gamers, right? Yes, of course they love the story. They love many, many aspects of it. But sort of saying that your reason to do it is because people want to know what happens next. You know, we could have shipped it. Like, it wouldn't have been that hard. You know, the failure was, my personal failure was being stumped. Like, I couldn't figure out why doing episode 3 was pushing anything forward.
But yeah, I mean, some of those people made Left 4 Dead 2 and then Portal 2. So
Yeah, we did other things instead.
It's not like that choice would have been free.
Right.
In terms of the players, like they may have gotten that and
given up something
else. Yeah. So it's hard to say.
But a lot of us have been doing Half-Life for 8+ years.
We saw a bunch of really compelling reasons to go explore more multiplayer-based projects too, because not only just what customers were doing, but internally, you know, we found ourselves wanting to play a lot of multiplayers.
It sounds silly to say it because we're a relatively big company that has a bunch of stuff, but we're not that many people. There's 300 something people here, and so we're working on a bunch of different projects, and it's like, you know, people are passionate about Portal, people are passionate about TF, people are passionate about Left 4 Dead and Half-Life, and you know, CS and Dota, Deadlock. I mean, there's a lot of things there, and you know, I also work on our hardware, so I've worked on Steam Deck and the original Steam controller and a tiny bit on VR. Unfortunately, for any decision we make, somebody is going to be unhappy, but hopefully we're making a bunch of people happy with the choices we do make.
If it weren't for the episodes, there'd be no such thing as Dota. And I know that sounds really weird, but it was the things that we learned in developing the episodes that led to, you know, Team Fortress, to more rapid updates.
I think everybody that worked on Half-Life misses the working on that thing, but it's also hard not to be like, man, I've seen every way that you can fight an antlion or you know, whatever, and so you want to, like, you know, get some space away from it until you can come back to it with fresh eyes.
It was easy to think about VR being a vehicle for Half-Life because that was a big technological innovation and kind of a core reason for that product's existence. And I think, like, one of the things we have internally tended to attach to the Half-Life IP is innovation. Gameplay innovation is oftentimes enabled by a technological innovation. Clearly there was a ton in Half-Life 1 and 2. And so yeah, it's an interesting challenge moving forward to, like, think about what that means for future Half-Life stuff, for sure.
The ending of Half-Life Alyx is somewhat a self-critical realization, so that was super satisfying, and all credit to the people who are specifically involved in that decision and those sets of designs. I think that Half-Life represents a tool we have and promises made to customers to capitalize on innovation and opportunities to build game experiences that haven't been involved previously. And I think that there are no shortage of those opportunities facing us as an industry right now.
Vocês viram aí como os desenvolvedores falaram sobre o que aconteceu com o episódio 3. Lembrando que esse vídeo aqui eu vou deixar o link na descrição, né? Claro que eu tenho que deixar aqui pro que é recomendado, porque foi PDBR. A franquia Half-Life ficou, cara. Tá ligado? Como ficou a situação de Half-Life, né? Half-Life 3. O pessoal fala pra caramba de Half-Life 3 aí, né? Tipo assim, mano, Half-Life 3. Cara, assim, eu não digo mesmo, né? Porque assim, esse vídeo, né? Esse vídeo aqui é só um vídeo rápido. Mas eu vou falar pra você aqui, cara, Half-Life 3 nunca vai acontecer, porque a Valve tá focada em novos jogos, tecnologia. Então, assim, não tem prazo de nunca vai acontecer o Half-Life 3. Assim, o episódio 3 nunca foi lançado e nunca vai acontecer. O pessoal vai ficar puto até hoje com a Valve que decidiram essa decisão. Tinha voltado muito antes, né? Porque o Half-Life 3 estava desenvolvendo desde 2006 para 2007. Esse jogo levaria mais 3 anos para ser lançado o episódio 3. Por causa do episódio 2 foi lançado ali em 2005, mais ou menos. Cara, o episódio 3 tava quase pronto, cara. Tava quase pronto. Tava tudo pronto ali. Os mapas, o cenário, os personagens, o Warden e a Alex. E depois os caras abandonaram o projeto, ó, o episódio 3 de Half-Life 2. Então fica meio incerto o final daquilo. Mas vocês viram, né? No spoiler, eu já vou falar spoiler aqui, porque eu nunca vou jogar esse Half-Life Alex, porque não tenho VR. Cara, vocês viram o que aconteceu em Half-Life Alex, final de Half-Life Alex, spoiler aqui, que mudaram o final de Half-Life 2. Não entendi. Mudaram o final de Half-Life 2 e a Alex não tá mais ali, só tá o Vincent e o Gordon. Vocês vão ver que eu vou jogar Half-Life 2, né? Porque pra quem não sabe, eu vou jogar de novo, pra baixar por causa da nostalgia. Mas enfim, cara, aconteceu e deu ruim. Deu ruim. Agora me fala uma coisa. E o Half-Life 3? Vai acontecer ou não vai? Nunca vai saber, porque o Half-Life Alex teve umas críticas aí, ninguém gostou, por causa tem que ter o VR, então ninguém gostou. Enfim, cara, esse vídeo aqui, se vocês quiserem que eu debate sobre Half-Life 3, se vai acontecer ou não, e falando sobre a descrição de como seria o episódio 3 de Half-Life 2, deixa aqui nos comentários, deixa o like, se inscreve no canal aí, tamo junto, valeu galera, até mais, tchau, tchau.